Utgarde Keep will be the first dungeon you come across if you start leveling in Howling Ford. Overall, this guide is aimed at the heroic version of Utgarde Keep, and it's going to cover things like where is it, what quests are available if you do it while you're leveling on normal, what achievements are available, a quick overview of each boss and how to approach the boss, and any notable loot. The intention of these videos isn't to actually walk you through the dungeon step by step. The intention is actually to show you how to get every achievement done for Glory of the Hero so you can get your mount. So like I said, Utgarde Keep is located here in Howling Ford, and there's 2 quests available for the Alliance and 3 quests available for the Horde. The Alliance quests are called Disarmament. For the Alliance, you can get this from Defender Mordun, who's just outside Utgarde Keep, and it sends you inside the instance to get 5 Vrykul weapons. For the Horde, it starts from Dark Ranger Mara, and the requirement for the quest is exactly the same, going in and retrieving 5 Vrykul weapons. The Vrykul weapons are just on weapon racks throughout the instance. There's plenty for all 5 people to be able to complete this in one single run. The other quest for the Alliance is called Into Utgarde, which is to go and kill Ingvar, which is the final boss, and loot his head. This comes from Defender Mordun, who's outside, the same person that actually gave you the one for Disarmament, but this does have a small series before it. When you first arrive into Howling Ford and you get the quest called Hell Has Frozen Over, you'll reach a quest which is step 3 in this series of quests called Rescuing the Rescuers. Once you've done Rescuing the Rescuers, then fresh legs will be available from Scout Valerie. Once you've done fresh legs, Into Utgarde is the next step. The Horde equivalent to Into Utgarde, where you have to go and kill Ingvar the Plunderer, is called Ingvar Must Die for the Horde. And this quest starts from Dark Ranger Mara, which is the same NPC that gave you Disarmament. There doesn't seem to be any pre-quest for this one. Luckily for you, Horde, you actually get an additional quest in here to go in and kill Keleseth, which is the first boss, which we'll get to very, very shortly. And this quest is called A Score to Settle, and this starts from High Executor Anselm. Now, this does actually have quite a long series of quests, again, in your starting zone. So this is actually more your equivalent as a Horde to the Into Utgarde, which requires a bit of a quest chain. So this will actually start with War is Hell at Vengeance Landing, and it will lead you to a 7th part of the series of quests called Report to Anselm. Once you get to that point, you'll unlock A Score to Settle, which will send you into Utgarde Keep to kill Prince Keleseth. What about the achievements? Going towards Glory of the Raider, the only achievement here available is On the Rocks, which is to defeat Prince Keleseth in Utgarde on heroic difficulty without shattering any frost tombs. There are 2 further achievements available, Utgarde Keep and Heroic Utgarde Keep, which is basically just to kill all 3 bosses on both difficulties. It's not really part of a dungeon achievement as such, but the first boss, Prince Keleseth, which we're going to talk about in just a second, can also drop Bouquet of Roses, which is part of the Valentine's event, or Love is in the Air. You know what I mean. When you reach Prince Keleseth, there'll be lots of ads all around a table. You can pull these back safely and AoE him down without engaging the boss. When you do engage the boss, he only really has 3 main abilities. That's a Shadow Bolt that he'll continuously cast at random players, a Frost Tomb that will encase a random player in a block of ice, stunning them for 20 seconds, and it also inflicts damage every second, and Vrykul Skeletons, which he'll summon, and every time they're killed, around 20 seconds later, they'll be brought back to life. They've got minimal amounts of HP, so just AoE him down, and you'll probably only have to deal with them once or twice anyway. The Vrykul Skeletons themselves, when they attack someone, will put a disease on them, reducing strength and slowing movement speed. This can of course be dispelled. On the basis, the main thing we're interested in overall is getting our Glory of the Dungeon Hero. The main way you want to approach this boss to get the achievement is burn it down as quick as possible. And with some well-geared players going from the progressive servers, it's going to be absolutely no issue whatsoever to go in on your first attempt and probably nuke him down so quick there might only be 1 Frost Tomb that even happens. But we need to cover all bases, so assuming you haven't got that much gear and you need to manage the mechanics properly, there's a few things you need to be aware of. The Frost Tombs do have very low health, so they can easily be AoE'd down accidentally, which you don't want to do. So if someone gets tombed, you want to pull the boss and any ads away from that tomb just in case there is any cleave. Ideally, you just don't want to cleave at all. If you're a warrior, don't use Whirlwind. If you're a DK, don't spread your diseases. You just do not want to attack that tomb. It should just be full-on single target, nothing else. So don't do anything to break out of these. Do not get it killed, do not use a Paladin bubble, do not use a human racial, and do not use Ice Block. it will void the achievement. One thing you can do is resist them, however. So if you've got a Paladin and you can put frost resistance on, you have a chance at resisting the tomb. That will not void the achievement. Or even if you manage to time it perfectly, and as a rogue you use Cloak of Shadows before it's cast on you, if it's a resist, it will not void the achievement. But ultimately, just nuke the boss, do not kill the frost tombs, use frost resistance aura just for a chance to resist the tombs, and nuke the ads down. Now this is the tricky bit, because there's lots of ads, you do not want to AoE those ads anywhere near the tomb. But do this, loot the boss, job's a good un. And while we're talking about loot, what can you get? We won't worry about normal difficulty items, we'll just focus on heroic, but you can get a leather head with stamina, intellect, crit and spell power called Battle Map Hide Helm. You can get the Strategist belt, which is a haste plate belt with strength and stamina and a red socket. You can get the Infantry Assault Blade, which is actually a very nice tanking weapon with defense and expertise. Or you can get the Wand of Sanlane, probably saying that wrong, which has got hit, haste and spell power. Now it's got no primary stats, but on the base it's got hit, haste, both very nice stats, and a good amount of spell power. Not a bad caster weapon at all. Whilst we're talking about loot briefly, it's probably worth mentioning the trash do also drop a couple of items on heroic mode which are BOE. One is Tattered Castle Drape, which is defense and block value, strength and stamina, a very nice 200 eye level tanking cloak. And then you got Runecaster's Mantle, which is a BOE pair of shoulders, cloth with stamina, intellect, spirit, a nice yellow socket with a spell power bonus and 68 spell power. Then you got Scarvald and Dalron, which is a duo boss setup. The best way to approach these two bosses really is kill Dalron first, because he's just a caster and it doesn't really matter. When they die and turn into a ghost, they'll have no aggro table, so you don't want the physical damage dealer being Scarvald to just be running over to your healer and battering him. So preferably the safest way to do it is actually get Scarvald fairly low, you know, you're talking 30%, something like that, switch to Dalron, nuke Dalron down, and then finish Scarvald off. But I don't see anything wrong at all with going straight in, having your tank on Scarvald while having everyone stacked so you do not get a charge, because the charge is a 5 to 30 yard range. So as long as you are completely stacked, no one will get charged. He does do a knockback, so tank, you just got to get back in quickly. But ultimately, just nuke the caster down and then kill Scarvald and get your loot. And your loot is a pair of expertise and attack power leather wrists, which are called Bindings of the Tunneler. Very nice for, well, anyone who needs expertise and uses agility, really. Dalron's Jerkin, which is stamina, intellect, spell power, and MP5 Mal chest. That screams Resto Shaman all over. A nice Holy Paladin head with a meta socket, which is obviously very important. Crit, spell power, stamina, and intellect. Or Dagger of Betrayal, which is a 1.8 speed, agility, stamina, hit, and attack power dagger, which could be used by multiple people, not just rogues. And then finally, the last boss, Ingvar the Plunderer. So Ingvar does a cleave, so you want to have it faced away with everybody stood behind or preferably at range. He does a big smash, which has actually got a cast time, so tanks, you can actually move out of this by simply running through the boss. Once it's finished, run back into position. He does a staggering roar, which inflicts physical damage and interrupts any spells for 6 seconds, so be sure to watch out for this healer's or line of sight behind the pillars. But honestly, preferably just look out for it, and when it's coming in, don't cast. And he also enrages. The stacks of staggering roar will do more damage over time, and once you kill him, that's not it. He actually comes back to life, but now he does all the same abilities, but it does shadow damage instead of physical damage. So he still needs to be faced away. The tank still needs to avoid the dark smash. The dreadful roar will stack 40 times, doing extra shadow damage for each stack, and now it will actually interrupt spells being cast by 8 seconds, so definitely do not be casting when this goes off. And he also does a woe strike, which is just a curse put on the tank, and you'll want to decurse him or not heal him, one or the other. Only heal him when absolutely necessary, because if you heal the tank while he's got woe strike, you as the healer will take damage as well. But ideally, if you've got a mage or a druid or a shaman talented, just remove that curse and you're all good. Some tips for each role on this boss: if you're a tank, just take him to the edge of the platform and face him away. When he starts casting smash, just run through him or get out of the way just by running to the side, and after a smash, always turn him back round. Healers, just be at max range just in case for some reason the boss doesn't get turned away and you get cleaved. Just make sure you're standing well out the way, and just be aware when he's doing staggering roar, do not cast. And he normally does staggering roars straight after a smash, so after you see the smash, just wait until the staggering roar's gone and then you can cast. The same will apply in phase 2 with dreadful roar. Keep your eye out on the tank for if they've got woe strike, so you're not just healing and doing loads of damage, or if you're a priest, you could use binding heal heal, in which case it's just going to negate both. And if you're a healer that can decurse, i.e. a druid, make sure you decurse in Woe Strike. For melee, just make sure you're stood at max range behind the boss and never be stood in front of him so you don't get smashed or cleaved. And for ranged, it's the same as healers really. Just don't cast if you're a caster when he's doing staggering raw, and just stay at max range just to be safe. And then the loot you can look forward to from this boss, because it finally drops epics because it is the last boss of the heroic, is Sharp Barbed Leather Belt, which is a nice expertise and attack power waist. It's also got a socket. There's staggering leg plates, which have got a very, very nice amount of hit, strength, stamina, and they've got 2 sockets as well. Anild's Ring, which is stamina, intellect, haste, and spell power, a very nice ring for many, many casters. Or the Drake Mounted Crossbow, which is a great pre-raid bis item for you hunters, giving agility, crit, and attack power. Even some of the blues that drop from this boss are very good. Breaches of the Caller with stamina, intellect, spirit, and spell power. These are cloth legs with 2 sockets. Plunderer's Helmet with a meta gem socket, which is obviously huge, and this is crit and attack power Malhead with agility and intellect, so great for either enhancement shamans or hunters. A Tanking Ring with defense and block value of your shield, with obviously strength and stamina. That's the unsmashable heavy band. And then for you ferals, this could be a very good weapon to get started with, especially if you're going to be a tank, with the Enraged Feral Staff with 700 armor, 78 agility, 117 stamina, and 104 attack power. There's also a dual crafting recipe which comes from it, which is the Fierce Monarch Topaz design with strength and haste. And of course, every last boss will drop a frozen orb, which if you're a crafter, you're absolutely going to want. And that's it. That's Utgarde Keep. Everything you need to know about Utgarde Keep on heroic, and obviously all of the tactics apply for normal as well. You can go in there now, get your achievements and get your loot, and be comfortable with what you're meant to be doing. Like and subscribe, roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes. Everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name. And you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.